Okay, so today we're going to talk about pain and a few things with pain. What is pain? What is pain for? What are some typical pain responses, especially with regards to how pain responses can be not typical and lead to chronic pain. So, first question there: what is pain? Something we've all experienced. Everybody has sensory receptors all over their body, and they can sense heat, touch. You know, the cells in your eyes sense light, and these receptors are always sending information and stimuli to the brain. So your brain is always getting this information, and basically the brain's interpretation of that gives us our perception. So when we sustain an injury, receptors from the injured area, so if you hurt your ankle, they're going to send signals to the brain, and there it is going to be interpreted as pain. So that's a big takeaway from what is pain, is it's just the perception of a stimulus, and that pain occurs in the brain. And it's also important to note that pain and its intensity can be affected by several other factors, such as one's emotional state, or the context in which it happens. Now, I'll kind of touch on that here in a second as well. So typically, what is considered a typical response is, say, if you have an acute injury, such as you have a bone fracture, if you break something, the receptors there are going to send signals to the brain, and that is going to be interpreted as pain. And it's important to note, for the most part, pain is going to have a protective response. It's going to cause us to seek, to avoid that pain and to seek a remedy to lead to tissue healing. So in that regard, it's actually a good thing. If you didn't feel the pain, you would just keep re-injuring that broken bone, and it would never heal. And like I said, there are other factors such as context. You can find numerous stories of, people who are out hiking and they, fall and break their leg, and they walk for days on this broken limb and state that they didn't really feel any pain at the time until, they were rescued. In this case, the context of survival is more important, and the brain reduces the pain response. And that's kind of a typical response. Once the pain goes, once the tissues are healed, the brain's protective mechanism will calm down, and you will have less and less pain until hopefully gradually have none. Now, what is not typical, and what a lot of people experience with chronic pain, is that once the tissue has healed, the brain's protective response, while no longer necessary, it is still there. Okay, so you still have pain. And this happens even though the tissues are healed and nothing is no longer nothing is in danger anymore. You still have this pain and this protective response, and that's what happens in a chronic pain situation, where the tissues are generally better. It's been long enough that they've healed, but the pain has not gone away. So it's important to realize that even though the tissues are healed, that the pain is still real. Okay. Another thing that is important is that movement and activity, though they're going to be painful, are not causing further damage. And movement and activity is really important as a first step towards reducing that level of chronic pain someone's experiencing. So I hope that very short intro into pain and a very brief overview gives an idea of what's normal in pain and what's happening in chronic pain, and that the pain is very real. Kind of the brain has not calmed down at all, and you're still having this pain even though its effectiveness is no longer useful because the tissues have healed.